Hello. So please ignore the the mess in the background. I'm visiting my mom, and I had to record this video because it was something that has been coming to me for the past few days, and I'm just like, it's fine. I'm just gonna do this. So yeah, it's not the regular background, but it's still me. So today's video is something I really hope I'm able to get out in a cohesive manner because it's something that has been on my mind and in my heart and in my spirit to share so much, because I feel like it's really important. And for some reason, it's been revealed to me. Sorry, for some reason, it's been revealed to me. Um, yeah, and I'm just like, and I felt led to share it. So here it is. I'm going to be talking about honoring the divine masculine and the divine feminine energies. So I've done workshops on embracing and expressing divine feminine energy. I became so passionate about that a few years ago, and I held workshops that, I mean, they were so much fun for me to do, and I loved them. And the thing about them was, I got to a certain point when I was like, I feel like there's something else to this, but I couldn't access what that was. So rather than try and force it, I was like, okay, let me just take a step back with these workshops and concentrate on other things while I figure this out. And by observing, I love to observe people. I love to understand what's going on in what the current temperature or the current situation in different things is in our culture, in our mental space, like how we thinking, how we viewing the world. So for the past couple of years, I've just been observing these dynamics around the masculine and the feminine energy. And before I even get into it, I just want to explain in case it's not clear. We all have the masculine and feminine aspects within us. So it's not something that's gender specific. And it can be that because I present as a female in my physical form and I identify most with the feminine energy, but I do still have masculine energy within me that I'm even learning to express even more. And so it can be any way. Some people feel like they are straight down the middle, non-binary, have both in equal measures, and so, or even mixed. There are those who identify with the masculine more. There are those in male bodies who identify with the feminine. It doesn't have anything to do with gender because we all have these energies. And so I guess it's just how we are set up in our individuality, and also whether we want to access these parts of ourselves as well, because that can also be a very fun way to explore just a different side of you. With me, getting to my masculine energy sometimes feels so interesting because I feel like I am very feminine from head to toe, and even in my some of my mannerisms, even in my mannerisms, I feel like I'm very feminine. So yeah, it's interesting to play those different aspects of ourselves. So there's this theory that at some point in our history, what we had was a matriarchy instead of a patriarchy. And that meant that, the feminine aspect was more dominant than the masculine aspect, even in religions and in politics and social, like in the social structure of the society. Like it was a woman's world. And then their theory is also that what happened was kind of like with the feminist movement in a way, there was an uprising of men wanting to have more space and more power. And so and so instead of just shifting it into equality, it became now a shift of power, of complete power, where now the patriarchy was dominating the feminine energy. And we have lived like that for quite a few generations, probably centuries, I guess. And the thing about that is, I've also heard people speak up their fear about the fact that, especially, people, men, speaking up their fear that this could also happen. That what's going to happen is that it's just going to shift now from a patriarchy to a matriarchy where women are the ones who have the power. And, I don't know. Either way, I don't know about that. But what I do know is, because it goes further than being a man's world and being a woman's world. It's really about the kind of energy that we're expressing. For me, I see it on a spiritual level. And or what that means is, like I said, we both have these aspects within ourselves. And that's why, for me, Source, Toti, God is never a specific gender, because I do feel like it is everything. That energy that we come from is everything. And so it has the masculine and the feminine aspects within it. There's, the gods and the goddesses. There's, some say that there's God the Father, and then the Holy Spirit is the feminine aspect. So for me, I feel like how we express the feminine and the masculine is what matters. And so whether it is the masculine or the feminine that's dominating, for me, it's still as harmful. Um, and I feel like it is best if, first of all, whatever masculine energy is being expressed or feminine energy is being expressed is of its divine most highest version. What I mean by that is, if you look in the world, it's not so much that it's just been a man's world, it's that it's been a very dominating system. It's harsh, it's destructive, it's selfish, it's greedy, and those are the shadow aspects of the masculine. But if you look at the divine masculine, you look at its aspects, it's a very protective, it holds boundaries, it's a safe space. It's like the stage upon which the feminine energy dances. It's the place that holds space for the feminine energy to thrive and to create. And so if we were in a space, if we were in a culture, if we were in a global culture where the masculine energy was divine, then there would never be dominance, because it would create space for the feminine energy to thrive as well. And that's what I feel also with the feminine energy. So it's not that any of them have to be more powerful, it's that we have to transmute this energy into its divine aspects, into its most divine versions. And I feel like there's a lot of spiritual talk around this. There's a lot of talk around, embracing our divine masculine, divine feminine energies and how to express that, and, being the best versions of ourselves, and holding space for each other. I love that I'm seeing a lot of this discourse, in the spiritual community. The thing about it, though, is the structures that we have in place are to keep us separated. And when I started opening my eyes to this, my mind was blown, because I was like, my goodness, it is from the way we speak about masculine and feminine energy. And because a lot of us, like there's a group of us that do identify with our physical body, our gender matches up with the energy that we identify with. So, I'm a woman, and I identify most with feminine energy, and so usually the people that I will interact with have the masculine aspect. That's just my preference. It doesn't have to be, but that's my preference. And so how I talk about masculine energy also matters. And that's one of the things that I haven't ever been able to say. And I know this is probably going to be a bit controversial, because I understand the energy behind it, but for me, I can never comfortably say it. When people say men are trash, I struggle to say that, and not because I disagree with the movement that's behind that. I understand it fully, and I understand where it's coming from. For me, I see it from a different perspective. My word is very powerful. That's what I've come to know. My thoughts, my words, my actions. So I'm becoming more and more conscious with the things that I say. If I speak about my masculine counterpart in that way, if I call my masculine counterpart trash, then I feel like I am putting I'm putting my focus to an energy that exists, that does create this reality. I will not do that with my word when I can. When I can help it, I will not consciously put effort towards speaking about something that I do not want to see in the world. And I do not want to see the shadow masculine manifestations anymore. I don't want to interact with them anymore. I want to interact with masculine energy that is divine, that is loving, that's present, that's wholesome and protective and caring and nurturing, and holds space, and is warm, and all the beautiful things about masculine energy. That's what I want to speak to. So I want to speak life into that. And so one of the things that I have been praying to the universe is to be able to see the beauty in the masculine, because to be honest, in this world, and I'm not taking anything away from our experience as people in terms of how the patriarchy has been. I'm just trying to look at it from a different perspective, from a perspective that's a bit higher, so that I see a bigger picture rather than, just narrowing down on one thing. We have had a lot of trouble with the patriarchy, and we've had a lot of things that have happened because of, there's a lot of violence, there's a lot of abuse, there's a lot of systemic, and it's a lot of this stuff that's also very systemic in terms, and we haven't been able to read it out, and it takes a lot of. I do understand that it's a fight for us to be able to take our space in this world, but rather than fight the system, and this is how I feel about a lot of things, because usually these systems are things that have been in place for a very long time, and they have a way that they survive. They have a way that they function. They have a way that they exist that's far developed. It's more developed than probably what I believe or what I think. I'd rather not waste time fighting the system. I'd rather put my effort towards creating a new one, or put my effort towards seeing from a new perspective. And because I know that my attention is my currency, I want to put it in places that are building beautiful new ways of being that can benefit us, rather than trying to. And I know that there's a place for taking down the system, absolutely. I do know that. But for me, I feel like I am better when I am serving a new kind of way, which is why, rather than fighting Christianity, rather than fighting religion, I would rather just discover for me what is authentic for me, and then create communities around that. I don't know if that makes any sense, but that's just how I feel. So even with the issue around this, war between the masculine and the feminine, I feel like, first of all, when we're fighting each other, all that serves to do is keep us separate. And I do know that there has to be a meeting at some point, and I don't think that it's necessarily the place of the ones who have been oppressed to create the space for the ones who are, or the oppressor. But at some point, we do have to meet at midway. We have to meet somewhere to be able to undo the systems, undo the mental attitudes, undo everything that has kept us in this place of separation. Beyond that, it's also about how we honor each other. Now, this is a really weird example, but I was watching a movie yesterday with a friend, and it was a comedy. And it was a comedy. What was it called? I think it's Death at a Funeral, and I think Chris Rock and a bunch of these amazing black actors were in it. And as I was watching it, I was just seeing the typical representations of women and men. There's the good guy, and then there's the selfish guy, and there's the guy who has money and he's just so greedy, and there's the woman who's a nag, and there's the woman who's constantly needy and needing her husband. And I mean, there were all these different stereotypes of men and women. And I love to watch things and movies and series and whatever, but for me, the thing that was so interesting is I never realized that these things just play into the narrative. I've spoken before about how sometimes I feel like humans just feel like this is how things are. That's how men are. That's how women are. And I've seen that so many times in so many different ways. But for me, I'm always like, no, it doesn't. That's not the end of the story. Maybe that's how things have been. But first of all, it's not the complete picture. And secondly, that's not how then we just have to keep living. To me, it's like, so if something isn't working, we just keep moving ahead with it just because that's how it's supposed to be. Like, that to me never makes sense. And so even with how we see each other, how we speak about the masculine, how we speak about the feminine. Women are just, women are this, women are that, women are needy, women are clingy, women are manipulative, women love money, women are this, women are selfish, men are dogs, men are mean, men are destructive, men will come and break your heart, men are, all these things that we assign to each other, not understanding that these words have power and these words have energy. And what we are speaking is collectively an agreement that will create a reality. Like, for me, I'm like, we need to start moving past these ideas, past these stereotypes, past these narrow-minded ways of seeing each other. There's in A Course in Miracles, they talk about a course of sorry, A Course in Miracles talks about how when you judge your brother, you judge yourself, because we're all one. And I remember even in the song, I feel like Beyonce and Jay-Z have done A Course in Miracles, by the way, because there are certain things that Beyonce has said in their songs that I'm just like, this is from A Course in Miracles. But there's a line in her song, Don't Hurt Yourself, which she says, when you hurt me, you hurt yourself. And, I guess this was directed to Jay-Z in that time when they were having the infidelity issues. And when he would hurt her, he'd be hurting himself. And that's exactly how it is. We are one, whether we like to admit it or not. And so if I am judging my brother, I'm also judging myself. More so because I have both the masculine and feminine aspects in me. If I am looking at the masculine aspect and calling it a certain thing, I'm calling myself the same thing because I have the same thing within me. So even as we are speaking about each other, when we dishonor each other, we also dishonor ourselves. And that was the biggest thing for me that came through. So it's about being more conscious about how we interact with each other and how we see each other, breaking away from these narrow descriptions of what feminine or masculine energy is. And this is something that has happened to me a few times when I've been interacting with someone in a romantic situation and they say something like, they describe me in a certain way. And this is the thing about this world. We like labels. We like putting labels to things. We like putting things in boxes and putting labels on them. And we try to put each other in these boxes, which can be so limiting in your interactions with people, because rather than coming to a person with an open mind and getting to know them as an individual, we come in looking at them through our lenses, through our lenses of our past experiences and our conditioning from our social environments. So we come knowing that this is how men are and this is what they need and this is what they look for and this is how women are and this is what they need, or this is how masculine energy is, or this is how feminine energy is, if it's not represented by the physical body. But it's so limiting and it's so untrue to a lot of people. So for me, sometimes when someone comes to me with that energy, I'm usually just like, you don't even know me. You're trying to put me in a box, which to me feels like it's totally unfair. Why not come to me as an individual, not as Tarure, the feminine energy, or Tarure, the woman? Come to me as a person and understand my perspective from the things that I tell you, not with preconceived ideas. And it's a thing that has to take long, because even me in my relationships, I've been working at getting to the place where I see a person as an individual and not look at them through the lens of my experience or through the lens of my conditioning. It's easier said than done, obviously, because this is something that we've lived with for a certain amount of time, our whole lifetimes. And so to shift that also takes some time. But I think it would be such a beautiful way for us to honor each other and to honor, just our divinity. Come to each other with as clear a slate as possible. And I know that it's difficult because sometimes the history is very painful and sometimes it is meaningful, and sometimes, especially for the burdens that we carry as women, as men, and especially as women with this whole, struggle with the patriarchy and sexism, it comes with a certain amount of baggage. And I feel like that in itself should also be honored by ourselves and by our partners, to understand that, yes, as much as we are coming to see each other as individuals, yes, you do come with a certain amount of baggage. And and that's also another way to honor the feminine, is to realize that to be feminine in this space and time comes with a history of pain and trauma, and some of it pretty recent because we've also gone through stuff in our childhood. And the same thing for men. Even though the system has been skewed towards them, there's also the trauma that they have gone through that is worth respecting and worth honoring. I feel like this video is so long and I have said so many things and gone in so many directions, but I really hope it has made sense. So I'm hoping that we find a way to be more conscious with each other. I've said that word so many times. To be more loving, to be more accepting, to be more compassionate, to let our ideas of what the masculine and feminine are fall away so that the truth of what they are can come and shine through, which is the divine aspects, of those energies. Yeah, yeah. In a perfect world, this wouldn't be a thing. In a perfect world, we would all exist in our masculine and feminine energy, or whichever one feels best for us, and be able to express it without anyone feeling like they have to um, shrink or hold back or limit themselves. And so, one last thing that I'd like to say is for you guys, especially in relationships, I don't know, I just feel that I should say that honor your person and the energy that they stand in. Honor them and speak life into that energy. The thing about, I've said this, our words, our thoughts, it's all energy and it's all powerful. And so anything that we put our focus on expands, and it just stands to reason that we should put our energy to things that will build us up and be of benefit and make us better and make us happier. So speak life into each other. Love your divine feminine or your divine masculine, even within yourself. Speak life to yourself as well. Thank you so much for watching. I'm so glad that you're here, and I'm so glad that I get to interact with you people. Thank you, thank you, thank you for watching and for liking and for subscribing. And if you haven't done any of those, please do. Find me on social media, Tarure Gatere, on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And I will see you in the next video. Please remember, above everybody else, you deserve your own unconditional love and acceptance. I'll see you guys. Bye.